Story time about how my aunt drugged me. So a little background information, I was 16 and in 10th grade. And I had never met my aunt before, but whenever my parents talked about her, it was only bad things. Well, the one day I went to go and ask my mom something and I heard her on the phone with someone. She was like, no, I'm not giving you any more money. It's not my fault if you spent it all on drugs. And we barely talked about my aunt, so I didn't know that's who she was talking to. Fast forward, I come home from school the one day and my dad's sitting on the porch with this woman who looks like she's homeless. My dad introduces her. He's like, oh, by the way, this is your aunt. He was like, oh, well, she wants to spend some time with you, so you're going to go with her for a few hours. I was hesitant because of all of the stuff that my mom had told me about her, but I started walking down to her car and my mom whips in the driveway. Eventually, my aunt ends up talking my mom into letting me see her, and apparently my aunt has been asking to see me for a very long time. So she takes me to the mall, we eat, we get our nails done, and at this point, I'm thinking she's kind of normal until she takes me to her house. She ended up talking my mom into letting me go with her, which I was super grossed out because she smelled really bad and her car was a mess, but she took me to the mall. I thought she was normal, and then she took me to her house. When we got into the neighborhood, I kind of recognized it because my grandma lived in the same neighborhood. But anyways, we pull up and it is literally trashed. Like, there's fucking garbage all outside of the house. And I walked inside thinking that it would be better. No, it was filthy. There were needles everywhere. You could definitely tell that druggies lived there. And they had weird pictures hanging up all over the walls of these girls, random girls. Like, when I asked who they were like, oh, I don't know. So then her boyfriend's walking around the house. He's like 40 years old, walking around in his boxers around me. So I call my mom, I go outside and I'm waiting for her. And my aunt comes out and she's like, do you want a glass of water? She gave me some water and it tasted really sour and I had chugged the whole thing. And that was the last thing I remember before I woke up on her couch in the morning. I was sitting outside on the stairs waiting for my mom and she comes over to me and asks me if I want a drink and I'm like, sure. So I chugged the water and it tasted sour, woke up in the morning on her couch. And when I woke up, my aunt was in the middle of doing drugs. And some random lady who I don't even know how she got there, she asked me if I wanted a cigarette or if I wanted any of the drugs. So I got up, I was like, no, I don't do drugs, and I ran out of the house, and I was like super dizzy when I got up, so I ate shit on the way out of the house. I ran outside, I ran into this lady, I asked her to use her phone. I told her a little bit of what happened. After, I ran towards my grandma's house, and my mom came and picked me up, and I got grounded for 3 months because my aunt drugged me, and my mom let me go with my aunt.
I caught my neighbor trying to open my apartment door. Should I be worried? I just moved into my new apartment 2 months ago. Everything's been completely normal and fine up until a few weeks ago. I went to my mailroom to pick up some packages and there happened to be one of my neighbors there. He says his name is Jerry and he actually introduced himself to me. I had never seen him before, but he just said, hey, how are you? I said, hi. And then he said, are you new to the building? And I confirmed that I was new to the building. That's when he said that I looked familiar to him and he asked me where I went to school. I told him where I went to school and then he started asking me more questions. But the more questions he asked me, the more I realized he was just trying to find me on Facebook. I didn't give him my last name or anything. But ultimately, this guy knows where I live, so I was just like, whatever. That's when he started recommending restaurants and cafes around our neighborhood. He just kept talking and talking and talking. I ended up standing there for 10 minutes listening to him talk until I told him I had to leave. That's when he said it was so nice to meet me and that he'd see me around. Keep in mind, he does not know what floor I live on at this point. Then a few days later, I see him again at the mailroom. I said hello, but I made sure to act like I was in a hurry. But of course, he had to stop me and we talked again for like 5 minutes. I knew he was going to talk my ear off, so I told him I was in a hurry and I had to go. And he says, no worries, maybe we should catch up sometime. And I said, cool, bye. I did not say yes. A few hours later, I get on my Instagram and I see that he started following me. I wasn't super creeped out at this point. I was just like, okay, maybe he's just trying to be friendly. I instantly went and blocked him from seeing my stories. I didn't want him to keep tabs on me that way. Oh, also, I forgot to mention I work from home. And I do have 2 dogs. My dogs are always pretty quiet. I've never had a complaint about them. They really don't bark. Since I work from home, I walk them about 3 times a day. And remember, at this point, he doesn't know what floor I live on. At least I didn't think so. A few days later, I decided to go have dinner with one of my best friends. I left my apartment for literally 40 minutes because I try not to leave my dogs alone for too long. When I get off the elevator at my floor, I see the guy trying to open my door. He was pushing the door with his shoulder. I yelled at him from across the hallway and said, what are you doing? Then he looked shocked. Then he said, oh, sorry. I heard noise in your apartment and I wanted to make sure your dogs are okay. How does he know I have dogs? When I caught him red-handed trying to open my door, I asked him what he was doing. He said that he walked by and heard my dogs making really loud noises. and that he just wanted to make sure that they were okay. My dogs were making zero noises, and how did he know I had 2 dogs? And how did he know what floor I lived on? I was officially creeped out. He saw the look on my face and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry if I made you uncomfortable. I was just trying to check on your dogs." That's when I told him that he didn't need to do that and that it was okay and he could leave now. That's when he started freaking out. He said, "I'm so sorry, please forgive me. I can tell I made you uncomfortable and I feel like I've ruined everything." That's when I told him that he hadn't ruined anything because nothing was going on. Then he said, "Maybe you should give me your phone number so that if something like this happens again, I can just call you." I said no immediately. I told him he could leave again, and he walked away. He's halfway down the hallway and says, "Oh, we should still catch up for some coffee or something." What? I am concerned, but I don't know if I'm just freaking out for no reason. Could he have really been trying to help? Or am I right to think that he was trying to break in? I emailed my landlord and they said that they've never had a problem with him before. What the heck should I do?
I was informed that we are overdue for a story time, so let me give you one. Now, the story time comes on the heels of a situation that took place this last Saturday, and had I not had this situation happen to me that I'm about to tell you about, I probably would have fallen into a trap. So some 10, 12 years ago, I had a group of women come in, and of course they shopped, they bought, they were in the alteration stages. Now, we were specifically working with the bride. Bride has her gown on. This is her second fitting. We probably have 1 to 2 more fittings to do, and we would be done. She would take the dress on. We're about a month and a half out before her wedding. Now, every time this group of women came in, it was like a party. They would bring like drinks. They would bring some kind of treats. So we knew when they were coming in, we wanted to always offer something from us as well after the first visit that they had made, because they always bring something and they always share it. So we didn't want to be taking and not giving. And I was always saying no when they were saying, "Come on, Kasha, come on, Grace, share with us, celebrate with us." And so we would do that. So again, every time they came in, it was an amazing experience. We had a great time. It was like a little party. So based on these experiences that we've had with this bride and their party, you can imagine my dismay and actual shock when I got the phone call the following day from the groom saying that he wants all his money back for the bride's dress because of the experience that we're providing the bride and the party, and how we're absolutely rude, how we're not fun to work with, how we're all these negative things, and that our services are terrible and our alterations the bride is not happy with, and she wants every single penny back for her alterations and her dress. I'm absolutely shocked. My hands started to shake because I'm like, what is going on? What happened? We just celebrated the day before, but I didn't tell this person this. I'm like, "Who is your bride? I just want to confirm that you're calling the correct store." And so he told me the bride's name. He's like, "I'm looking at the receipts right now. You have 2 receipts. One was for the dress and one was for the alterations, and I want all the money back. I'm about an hour and a half away. I will be over within an hour and a half." Now I'm like, "Sir, hold on a second. I need to figure things out because I'm not at liberty to return any money to anybody. I need to figure out who this is, who you are, why this is happening. This is not something that's standard in our store. We do not run our store this way. What's going on?" And so my intent is to talk to my mom, talk to the employees that were working that day. What happened? Did I miss something? And I said I'd call them back, hung up the phone. And in the meantime, I had a bride come in, her appointment, and I needed to work with her. So I did not call anybody at that point. I had gone ahead and worked with the next bride, and I took that order. And then I went ahead and I started doing my recon work. In the meantime, before I could even make any phone calls, the groom walks in. Now, mind you, I've never worked with this man, never heard of this man. I know obviously there's a partner involved, but I don't know if this is the actual partner. So I decided to call the bride, but I told him that I'm going to call Grace, our seamstress. I called the bride and I said, "I have a gentleman here that's demanding money from me for your dress. What's going on?" She said, "Oh my God, is he like this? Does he look like this?" And she describes him. So to recap, there's a guy sitting in my store after a phone call asking me for an entire refund for a bride's dress, his bride's dress he's claiming, full refund for dress and alterations, and he's demanding it. He drove an hour and a half just for this refund. I tell him that I'm going to call the seamstress because I need to approve this, and instead I call the bride because something's not jiving. So I call the bride, she answers the phone thankfully, and I say to her, I told her the entire situation from the very phone call I received. And she goes, "Kathy, just stop. This is not my groom. I can tell you that right now. I can tell you right now. He just dropped me off. My groom just dropped me off. So there's no way." And I said, "Well, I don't know who this guy is, but he's telling me that he wants a full refund and he's pissed." And she stops and she goes, "I hope this is not true. Does this guy look like this, this, and this?" And she gives me a complete description of the guy that's standing in my store. She's like, yeah, that's my brother. That's not my groom. That's my brother." I was shocked. I was so stunned I couldn't speak. What do you do? What do you do? So in my mind, I'm like, okay, Obviously, I'm not going to give this guy a refund, I said to her, and I wouldn't anyways. This made no sense. She goes, Kathy, I love your services. I'm so sorry you're going through this on my behalf because my brother has a substance abuse issue. And I said, I'm so sorry. She's like, I'm sorry. She apologized to me. And I said, well, listen, I'm going to go ahead and just tell him, I'm sorry, I can't put this through. I have to have the bride go through. She goes, I suggest calling the police. The sister of this guy is telling me to call the police. I said, you know what? I don't know how I feel about that. She's like, he's trying to rob you. You know that. And he's trying to rob me at the same point. So if you were to return the money to him, you realize that you'd be screwing me and I have a problem with you then. I know you wouldn't do this. And I said, I know I wouldn't do this. That's why I'm calling you. She's like, exactly. Protect yourself, protect your business. I'm a businesswoman. Let's work together on this. Call the police. So I called the non-emergency police number at that point, and I think he overheard the conversation at that time because I hung up the phone and I called the cops, and he literally walked out of the store. Now, mind you, he had the receipts and everything. So, I mean, luckily, I am not one to react immediately. I would never work with someone that did not at some point actually hand me the money or sign a document with me. You have to have a contract with me of some sort, or I have to have notification of someone coming in to pick up your dress even. I do not release dresses. I do not release any information. I don't even show dresses to anyone without approval of the bride, much less give refunds, because this is a final sale type of business anyways. But there was no reason for this. This was just him trying to con me to support his habit. And I'm so sad for the situation. The police never did come. He said, I'm glad that you called the non-emergency number, and they knew me very well. But can you imagine if I released that dress?
When I was on The Voice, we made it to the semifinals, and for the last song, we wanted to like do something cool because we were like, we're not getting the fucking votes, bitch. We're out of here if we don't do some cool shit. And so I was like, I'll play guitar, because I hadn't played guitar since the blind audition. So we had our rehearsal with Ariana, and we were like, wait, it would be sick, like, if I started off just singing, and then halfway through the song, I pick up a guitar and I start fucking playing. And then Ariana was like, what if I come on stage and fucking hand you the guitar? And we were like, oh, that would be so fucking good. So we plan on doing that, but then the network is like, you can't do that because then she's a part of the performance and that's unfair. And so we were like, okay, how do we find a way around this? Because we were not making it another week without a little fucking gimmick. But we were like, okay, what if I run up to the red chairs and Ariana hands me the guitar? And the network was like, you can do that, but you're gonna look so fucking stupid. Like the staging people, the music people, everybody who was in charge of everything was like, why would you do that? That there's no point. You lose the whole gimmick. You will just be running off and we were so convinced that this was like the greatest idea that had ever been conceived on NBC. We were like, I don't fucking care. Like, we're fucking doing this. We were literally, oh my God. We were convinced that it was gonna like be like the moment. Everybody in the whole world was gonna be like, oh my God, she got the guitar from Ariana. So we literally convinced the people at NBC to like let it happen and let us do it. They had to like reconfigure the whole staging setup, figure everything out. But we were like, it's gonna be this sick moment. Like everybody's gonna be so obsessed. And after all of that on TV, it looked so awkward and nobody cared. Nobody gave a fuck. No one was talking about it. I was searching on Twitter, Sasha Ariana guitar, like a fucking clown sitting in my hotel room. Not one person cared. I was so scared of not making it back in time. I was literally jogging. Meanwhile, John Legend is like, someone get this twink away from my chair right now or I'm gonna spin it back around. And then I got up there too quick and I was standing there with nothing to do. It was horrible.
Hey, my name is Adrian, and I wanted to tell you why I got rid of my wife of 10 years and then found a new girlfriend that is much younger than her. It all started about 2 years ago when I realized I wasn't happy in my marriage. My wife always complained and criticized me, and to make things worse, she'd gained some weight and wasn't as attractive as before. Meanwhile, at my work, everything was going great. I had just received a promotion, and we had an intern that was directly reporting to me. Her name was Joanne. She was only 18 back then, but we got along so well. I liked how she treated me with so much admiration, like I was someone special. But when I got back home, my life turned dark again. My wife told me to bring out the trash or clean up the bathroom, but there was no love or joy between us. Meanwhile, I started to obsess about Joanne and thought about her constantly, even when I was laying next to my wife in bed. I knew things needed to change, and I told my wife I wanted an open relationship. When she said no, I got so angry and I said I wanted a divorce because she had become a fat Grinch. I immediately regretted what I said, but the damage was already done, and my wife was crying. To make things worse, I'm not very good at saying sorry, so I just packed my stuff and left. Of course I felt bad afterwards. I never wanted to hurt my wife. And I wasn't sure if I had only broken up with her so I could date Joanne. Well, the next day at work, I asked Joanne out on a date. She got really excited and said, "Of course I want to go out with you." "But I thought you were married." "Yes, but I'm in the process of getting a divorce, so I'm free to do whatever I want," I responded. I can't describe how good it felt to be free again, and dating Joanne was the cherry on top of the ice cream. She had so much youthful energy and we were always having a good time. But meanwhile, my wife kept on contacting me, saying she wanted us to try again. It got so annoying that at one point I wrote back to her saying, "No thanks. I've already found someone new. She's in good shape and appreciates me." Wow, I can't believe I said that to my own wife. I treated the person I once loved the most like dirty trash. But what I didn't expect was what my wife did next. She somehow found out who my new girlfriend was. And when I went on a picnic with her, my wife stormed up at us screaming, "I know who she is. Your girlfriend has been sleeping around with everyone when she was in high school." Apparently, my wife got so mad about me dating an 18-year-old girl that she contacted Joanne's old high school friends to dig up dirt on her. Wow, I'd never seen my wife so mad before. I realized that our divorce had taken a big toll on her because she looked so exhausted and old. That day hit me hard, but I was able to forget about my wife by spending time with Joanne. It was so much fun to spend time with her in the beginning. But after a few weeks, I got bored of her too, and we broke up. Weirdly enough, right when I left Joanne's building and crossed the street, I got hit by a car. It was a serious accident, and the doctors had to keep me in an artificial coma for 2 whole days. When I woke up, I saw my wife. I was too weak to say anything. But I couldn't believe anyone would still love me, even after I had caused them so much pain. The next days, laying in the hospital gave me a lot of time to think. I came to the conclusion that the reason my marriage had been a disaster wasn't my wife's fault, but my own fault. Because in our first year of being married, everything was great. We always helped each other, and I was so in love that I didn't even notice my wife had any flaws. But in our second year, I forgot our anniversary for the first time, and I also stopped saying I love you, and those small things are so important. So, once I could walk again, I immediately went back to my wife and asked her for forgiveness. I promised to treat her again like I did when we first met. And luckily, she accepted my apology. Today, I'm petrified of destroying my relationship again, so I'm always buying her flowers and telling her how much I love her, because I think that's what a relationship is all about. It's about giving and caring. It's not about taking and wanting. Hey, let me know in the comments if you've ever been in a failing relationship. And was it your fault or the fault of your partner? Always